Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Office Talks with Trevor and Brandon Moore Johnson.
That's right. All right.
I got to make sure I keep my hands out of my face
Yes.
for the camera. You're welcome, Sue.
All right,
Hello.
Brandon.
What are we?
It is our second office talk.
Yeah.
A lot of people liked it,
Yeah. We had a lot of good positive feedback from it.
and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the 20-minute format.
Yeah.
So,
I just like the fact that, I mean, it's what we talk about now
right.
on a daily basis. So just taking it into sharing what actually goes on in the office.
Yeah. And from an update from last week with our property valuation, out of the whole entire company, there's a little over 900 agents. The top 3 of them are from Lakeland.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah. So we had Ebony was number one, Salam, and Laura Schmidt. So
Ebony has some contacts.
yes, I know. What are you doing? So very proud of them for that, and the rest of the agents too. In our office, they just didn't hit the top 5.
Yeah.
So.
No, Ebony, Salam, and Laura, right?
Right.
They've been killing it. It's been cool and seeing all these new agents just really taking your advice and putting it into practice.
Right. And that's kind of the topic that I wanted to touch on this week is a lot of agents avoid the uncomfortable. I have a prospecting meeting every Monday at 2:30.
Right.
It's accountability, and the ones that show up are the ones that are actually writing business.
Right.
And the more experienced agents that show up in the office are the ones that are staying in business and profitable. So, and the difference that I see is they aren't avoiding the uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is they're doing the stuff, the open houses, they're making their contacts, they're being consistent. And that's like anything in life, right? If you want to lose weight, you want to be better at a subject, you got to do the stuff every single day. And then over time, that's where the growth is. If you go to the gym, if you're familiar with that, it's the 20%, the last few reps, the uncomfortable stuff is what really where the growth happens. So it's nice to see that. And you're going into your 4th year?
5th year.
5th year.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Time flies.
Yeah. October will be year 5.
I wanted to pick your brain a little bit because you're a professional real estate agent now, right? So I figured the first year to 2 years, you're if you can get past that, then okay, it looks like it can be a career now, and you're there, and I'm incredibly proud of the growth that you've had. So you have seen it on all sides, whether it's in what works, what doesn't, where we need growth, where what really works. So. In your opinion, whenever I say avoiding the uncomfortable, what does that mean to you as a real estate agent?
Avoiding the uncomfortable is, to me, like I hate cold calling. I hate door knocking. There's a certain things about the real estate industry that I don't like doing. I'm a people person, but I don't like initiating conversations with people that I don't really know. Right. When it feels like I want to get business from them. So it's uncomfortable for me to go to them in the back of my mind saying, hey, I'm a real estate agent. Like, I want to get your business. And so when I got into it, it felt like that's what you had to do at all times. Is like, you just have to be in people's faces and tell them that you're a real estate agent. But like, I've always hated that. So I've tried to figure out a way, how can I make the uncomfortable comfortable for me? And it came down to switching my mindset of, yes, I'm a real estate agent, but I'm also just a person who wants to get to know you and understand what your goals are. And if by chance I can help you with real estate, great. But that's not like the most important aspect of what my job is. So to me, getting uncomfortable is like doing something that's going to be beneficial in the long run, while I don't know if I'm even really answering the question, but like it's doing the things that's at consistency that is uncomfortable, or it hurts, or I feel insecure because of my own insecurities. Like, people aren't going to like me. People don't like the way I look. But it's getting past all that and just saying, hey, this is a service that I offer. I'm here to help however I can.
Well, speaking of your looks, last one you were going to get a haircut, and it looks great, by the way. So,
thanks.
And I think a little bit of that, there's a growth period. So in the last 2 years, the houses sold themselves. Right. And if you have value, and that becomes part of the growth and becoming a better professional. If you know that you have value, it's a lot easier to approach people. Right. and knowing that if they use the next person, they might not get the same level of service, the same level of care, and the same level of diligence.
Right.
And especially when you're newer, you're like, am I doing the right thing?
Right.
Or, am I comfortable enough? Do I know my statistics, or do I know the process, or do I know all of the marketing things that we have to offer?
Right.
Am I doing the right thing, or am I operating to my highest capability? And I think once you go through some transactions and you interact with other real estate agents, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm actually pretty darn good at it.
Right.
People really like me. So
and something that like I've struggled with is just my personality and how I operate is I like to receive permission in order to do something.
Right.
So I'm not the kind of person that'll just really go out there and do it. Like even for just in my friendships and my relationships with my wife, there's just an aspect of me that like I struggled with where I need to receive permission in order to like accomplish something. So I've really had to break that. The people that I've seen who have been successful in real estate are comfortable with just like going out and doing it and being comfortable being told no, being comfortable with being shut down. So I've always been kind of like, oh, I don't want my feelings hurt. I don't want this. Like, I don't like being told no. Also, can I do this? Am I allowed to do it? And until somebody gives me the permission saying like, yeah, like go and do it. But I think that's a big mental break that a lot of agents have when they first get started is like, we don't know if we can. Should we talk to people? Should we not? I don't like being told no.
On a side note, I proved to you that you could.
Right.
One
Yeah,
time,
you have.
right?
And that's what's been really frustrating because you can't just talk to people and they're like, oh, yeah.
We were at a Rays baseball game with complete strangers that I never knew existed. And I asked them, every single person I asked, if they, out of all their friends and family who was next to move, every single one of them had an answer for me with the timeline. So, and those are the things that are uncomfortable. But I just showed you that people received it really well. And a lot of people love real estate, right? So they like to have those conversations. Say if you turn on cable TV, if people watch that anymore, there's a channel dedicated to news, 24 hours. There's a channel dedicated to food. There's a channel dedicated to sports. And there's a channel dedicated to real estate.
Right.
So out of all the other channels, so if people didn't like it, they wouldn't have things that were 24 hours a day
specific for that,
dedicated to it. So people like to talk about it. I just think that our industry shoves so much stuff down our throat. Every time you get calls 4 or 5 times a day, the countless emails of, hey, you need to subscribe to this program or buy these leads or do this or do that.
Hey, we're looking for an agent in your area to give a 20% referral fee.
Right.
Like, are you interested?
Or,
and like, yeah.
I remember getting those in some of the new agents. Like, yeah, we were going through the whole database and we picked out the perfect agent and it's you. Well, you haven't sold anything. How do they know? So those things give the perception of productivity.
Right.
And anything will work, right? I mean, you can spend $200,000 on a program and make some money. So it's there. It's just, it's still a highly personal transaction and most people's most expensive purchase they're ever going to make in their life. And they're making a decision, a big decision for their family, whether it's the school zones or houses and commute to work or whatever the case may be. So structured business plan. And I talk about that all the time, the consistency. You create a plan that works for you and you work the plan, it'll work, right?
Yeah, and I love that statement because it's a plan that works for you.
Right.
Right. I feel getting into real estate, one of the hardest things is everybody's like, well, you have to do these things. I was like, well, like, do I have to do it? Because there's something in me that feels like this is just not who I am. So is there a way that I can structure that structure my business that makes sense for me,
right? That
still makes financial sense, that I'm still doing things consistently. It might not look like I'm not door knocking all the time or I'm not cold calling all the time, but like for me, I'm building relationships with people. I'm being specific about like who the contacts I want to make. I want to reach out to the big decision makers, build a relationship with them because they have a bigger reach. And it's less, I have to focus on less of the cringy part of like cold calling people.
Right.
But my business has grown much slower. But now I'm in a position where I'm having money or like money's coming in, which has been a huge blessing. But now I'm looking at the money and I'm saying, okay, how can I actually allocate these funds to start bringing in those things that I'm uncomfortable with?
Right.
To have somebody else do.
Yeah. And it's the thing is when you start, or even if you're an experienced agent, you're looking to, reboot or rebrand yourself. It's like, okay, there's 100 things that you could do. If you don't like cold calling, that's fine, but you're going to have to do something else.
You have to lead gen.
Right.
And any successful agent that I've seen, when you talk to them, how'd you build your business? Lead gen. Some of them like, I'm on the phone 8 hours a day, or I'm doing this like consistently. So now I'm looking at that. I was like, okay, well, how do I make sure I'm getting leads coming in? How do I make sure I'm talking to people enough? How do I make that funnel happen?
And it's different. Like Debbie Ward Terry, she's a perfect example of it. Mm-hmm. She sends out these beautiful mailers, and
they're amazing.
And she sends out over 30,000 of them a year, and she kills it. But she's very consistent with it, and she's very good with it, and that's her niche. Outside of her sphere of influence and past customers and clients, nobody else is doing that. On her scale. In the office, people, well, what does she do? Okay, it's great. But then, okay, well, what does Brandon do? Well, he does a little bit different. And I think that's kind of the role that I have, is I sit down with all the agents that want to sit down and say, okay, well, what works? And then we tweak it week over week, and it works. Because I remember that you were doing a lot of the social media stuff, which was great. And people were like, hey, you look great on social media.
You're the social media guy.
You're the social media guy. You must be killing it. And then it's become, I'm going to be a dad. And now I really need so what do I need to do to make a plan for me that'll work? And then we sat down and said, okay, well, here's the hole we're in. Here's what we need to do incrementally to get out. And then in 6 months you were there, and then you never looked back.
Yeah. I mean, we set the business plan in place, and, Casey, our president, always talks about, if you were the CEO of Coca-Cola, how would you make this decision?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of real estate agents don't look at their job as an actual business that they're building.
Right.
And so, like, what's the structure of things? Are you just taking leads and like not really knowing what the consequences of that are? Like, so how are you structuring and having a plan in place? And I'm not the best at it, like, like we talked about having a plan. Am I executing it the most? Probably not. I could be better. But now it's like, I got a PA for like to be an LLC now, making decisions that like, what's the best financial decision? What's the best thing for my business? How can I structure it? But at the end of the day, it's what are the small goals every day that I have to hit in order to hit the big goals that I want. And I see a lot of agents just not structure.
Right. And that's the thing, you hit on that. It's, you have a plan. Are you perfect with it? No, but now we're aware of it. Right. And like, okay. And then we can hone that and figure out what's working, what's not. A lot of agents, new and experienced, when they want to try something else, they chase perfection, right?
Yeah.
And they don't chase consistency. So I'd rather you do the activities every day, work on the plan as it evolves, than saying, well, you know what, I might not know this script, or I might not know this area or this technology. I might not know it perfectly, but I know a little bit of it to get started. It's kind of like what we're doing here today.
Yeah,
right?
It's, you pick something and you just do it. And I was talking to somebody the other day where she wants to do a lot of these really cool videos, and she has these really great ideas, and it's something that I fall into too, but we're not doing it because it's not perfect yet.
Right.
Like, well, it's not going to be perfect up front. So just pick something, get an idea, execute on that idea, and you adjust as you go. So like with this podcast, I'm super uncomfortable being in front of this camera. I hate the way I look. I don't like the way I sound, right? But it's like, it's just choosing something. We'll progress as we go. It's been fun. It's not taking away now with our business. It's not really taking away from the actual money producing activities. But we're just trying something.
Yeah. And that's the same thing, what we're doing here today. I sat with Casey, our president, and we plan almost every Friday. And one of the things that we figured out is I want to be on video, tell our story, who we are locally in the Lakeland office. And I cannot stand being on video. I can't stand watching myself on video. Yeah. People say, oh, no, you look, I'm like, I cannot stand it. So, but instead of chasing perfection, I said, okay, well, I'm going to do it, and we're going to do it weekly, and we'll just get through it. Right. Because
at the end of the day, the heart is we want to share what we know. We want to share the experiences that we have. Like you as a broker, which is why I love being here, is because you're one of the most knowledgeable people, like brokers in the area that I know.
Appreciate that.
So like the experience that you bring, and you just genuinely want to help people.
Yeah.
So to be able to have these conversations, we have these conversations in the office almost every single day.
Right.
What's happening in the market? What's going on? How can we help you with your business? What are you struggling with? So to be able to take this and put it in a video form really just helps me. And hopefully it helps other people too.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's been things where it's like, okay, we scratch our heads and like, okay, Brandon, well, I think if you do it this way, you could probably get something really, successful out of it. And usually it works, right? Sometimes we stumble, we're just trying to figure things out every day. But If we know what the vision is we can figure out the rest as we go along. But that takes consistency and not avoiding the uncomfortable. Right. Not, okay, let's sit in the beginning of the year or the last quarter of the year, make a business plan. Here you go, Tiger. Figure it out.
Yep.
No, okay, what's working, what's not. And you hear me barking out of my office all the time to the agents, whether they're new or experienced, what's going on or what do you, because we uncover a lot of needs that may not be known. So
that's very true. So what have you found to be like the top 2 things that you've seen successful agents really just drive home, and that's been they're like the driving factor in their success as an agent?
So the 2 things is create a plan, right? And whatever that looks like to you, right? And the second thing is whatever plan you create, put your blinders on. Look up every once in a while, make sure that you're doing things correctly, or if there's a better way of doing your current plan, and executing it every single day or whatever, however time you have allotted to it. Like I mentioned Debbie Ward Terry, she's been doing it for over 20 years, and I pulled up her sales. It would only go back to 2004, and there was hundreds of them.
Right.
And the one thing I see with her or you or successful agents, whether they're in our company or not, is whatever their vision is, they go after it. They don't stop until they see the results. Now, that's another thing is you see the results. Like, okay, well, are we comfortable with the results or do we want to grow?
Right.
But those are the 2 things. And I can't say to each agent, you do this one thing. All I can say is create the plan.
Right.
Some of the stuff's going to make you uncomfortable, like the newer agents. Like, hey, look, you might not like doing open houses, but you're going to have to do them, right? Or you're going to have to call your sphere of influence. Your phone can't turn into 800 pounds, and then whatever that is, do it every day or 5 days a week or whatever, however many days and hours you can commit to it. And if you do it, you'll be successful.
Yeah.
And you see that in the top 20%. The top 20% are doing the things that make the bottom 80% uncomfortable.
Right.
All I can say is don't avoid the uncomfortable, stick to it, be consistent, and get a peer, get a colleague, get somebody you can trust, a mentor, your broker. The great thing here is everybody's like, well, we need a mentor. I'm like, well, I'm here. I'm a non-compete broker.
Right.
So I that's my job is to help you guys. So, but whatever that person is in your life, and make sure that they can hold you accountable and they can be a springboard for ideas or, hey, does this sound good or that sound good? Right. Sometimes agents will come to me and I'm like, no, that sounds terrible. No. Or like, yeah, that's an excellent idea. I wish I would have thought about it. So I just want to make sure you stay out of trouble. But,
and I'd say it's really, really important to always be learning constantly. In our industry, everything changes so drastically. So who's the people like, are you staying up with insurance? Are you staying up with the mortgage industry? Are you staying up with
condos,
law, contract law? Because our contract just changed for the FAR bar. So, and then what other education? Do you know investing? Do you not? Like choose something that's going to make you a well-rounded agent.
Yeah. That was one of the great things. I love that Brandy brought in those professionals because I don't think our industry does a good job. We had the financial financial services provider. We had Advanta IRA to teach agents how to either themselves or for their customers buy real estate using their IRA. And then we had David Bick, he's a tax guy, but his niche is real estate agents. And I really think that helps agents grow, and that's their niche. And
a lot of that really blew my mind because there's just certain things like I hadn't really started setting up saving for like retirement and everything because I just never really been in a financial position to be able to think about it or to really know that I can. So like having those classes come in really helped change my thought process. And even just now becoming, an actual entity through real estate. Cause Florida is one of the only states that allows the actual agents to become,
it's not the only state, but not every state allows
one of the only states, right?
I think there's 12 or 13 of them.
Yeah. And I was talking to my wife about it and I was like, we can either pay our taxes and like have this lump sum, or there's other options for us to be able to put that money in. And I was like, it just really doesn't make sense for any real estate agents not be an entity,
right?
To not be an LLC or
if you're a weekend warrior,
right?
If you're just doing it for the beer and the boat money, it doesn't make sense.
But if you're profitable, $30,000 a year, which there's a decent amount of agents that are, like you have to. It makes no sense. Like you're losing so much money and you're not setting yourself up for success. And now when I look at structuring my business, I've been looking at it financially. I was like, okay, I want to give myself this salary per month, and that's what I want in reserves for my account, so I can make sure that I'm like not a paycheck to paycheck realtor. Right. That I'm like, oh, I'm not worried about.
And again, so many realtors are like that, right. and that's a part of not avoiding the uncomfortable, because sometimes those conversations are uncomfortable to have, and setting money aside to your retirement, or either way, the money's coming out of your pocket. So, and that's kind of my overarching theme of this office talk is you got to do those things that make you uncomfortable, because ultimately in the end, they'll make you successful,
right?
Whether it's personally, professionally, financially, whatever it is.
Agreed.
All right. Is that it?
I think that was a good end.